Columbus Day to everybody celebrating in the
Good
States.
morning.
It's Thanksgiving today in Canada. We got Jeff. We love you guys so much that we didn't take the day off. We're here for you guys. So definitely thank you so much for tuning in, and we're gonna give you guys some value today.
Let's go.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
There she is. As soon as we get started, good morning, Lisa. Happy Columbus
Good
Day.
morning, Lisa.
How's everything? So Jeff, man, it's we decided, hey, we were bringing some value to people. Let's come on to this morning and hit them with a jam-packed episode. How's your weekend, man? What'd you get up to? I know it's getting really cold in Toronto.
It was good. Actually, yesterday I did absolutely nothing. I try like on Sundays to like put this baby down. I mean, we always walk with it, right? And no matter what we do. And it was nice just to sit back. And I have a beautiful lake in the back of my house. So it was like absolutely mirror. So I it's like a mirror image. And of course, the trees are changing and everything. So it's beautiful out there. So I like just sitting on my picnic bench, just staring out there and just thinking about the past week and what's coming up this week, and Canada having their holiday. And of course here in the States, there's two. Some people call it Columbus Day, then the PC is in Indigenous Peoples Day, and it's a federal holiday, so the banks are closed and post office are closed, but there's still a lot of companies that are open. I got a ton of email this morning, so that tells me they are. So, but yeah, it was a pretty good weekend. How about yourself?
Yeah, we're well. I just want to actually give a shout out to Rob. Good morning, buddy. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, Rob.
It's my weekend went really well. We actually did our Thanksgiving lunch yesterday with all our family. It was amazing to see all of our dogs like hang out and things like that, and just have a good time. And what's kind of funny, what getting into logistics of it, is that I always kind of like used to mark off American holidays because like I would know like, okay, if it's a holiday in Canada, let's call the American customers today, and if it's a holiday in America, let's call Canadian. Well, we're always calling Canadian guys and things like that, right? So it's always kind of been that kind of like nice little balance to have. Today, everything's completely closed in Canada. So the banks are closed, grocery stores, Walmarts, all those fun places are closed. So I think there's a couple malls that are open, and maybe my wife and I will kind of go there. But it's been a good weekend, man. And just like having some great time with family and being able to just kind of rejuvenate, like you kind of said, like, oh, it's gonna be a crazy push to the rest of the year. So I think today's episode is very fitting in terms of, hey, what's your holiday game plan? I know, Jeff, in my situation, especially early in my career, we're like, hey, like everybody kind of says freight doesn't sleep. So when you look at those holidays, it's like, oh man, like some Mondays or like some Fridays that are supposed to be holidays, I'm working through it. But you know why, Jeff, though? The reason is because I took the bad option with the truck, right? Whether it be a carrier that I didn't vet properly, or maybe they were the only carrier that was in the area, so I didn't want to give back the load to the customer and be transparent about it. So I'm like, okay, let me take the load. But then I know you probably won't feel this, but I know people in the comments who have been in situations where they book a carrier and they don't hear anything at all, completely dead silence. But yeah, with your experience, Jeff, like what is kind of like your game plan for the holiday? Because like I know you work a lot, but your customers are not, right? And the load planners, and they're not, right? So we have to respect that and understand that. But what do you kind of do when you look at the big holidays coming up?
Yeah, and it's a great question, and in the most simplistic response is that sometimes the plan doesn't plan out as you plan, because things just happen so randomly. You talk about the carriers. I think I had one that went rogue on me. Thank God it wasn't an expensive product. That was, knock on wood. But when those things happen, it's like your heart goes up in your throat. It's like you're rushing to take care of your customer, and you're just doing a plug and play, right? The guy gives you a call up. You're like, oh, I only have another hour. And then all of a sudden you put them on the load, and then it's like, uh-oh. And you never hear from them again. And, it's so cost consuming when you think time and cost, right? Mitigation, claim, you don't know who you're going to send the claim into, because you say X carrier is coming in there and Y carrier comes in there. You don't know who took the freight. I mean, it's terrible. So that happened to me once, very, 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 very long time ago. And I made it a point that, you have to dig in. You really have to do the background checks on a lot of the carriers, every single one. I shouldn't say a lot, all of them. No matter what you see or what you hear, do your homework, man. To your point, Ryan, because it can be horrible, just a horrible thing. But to get back to the plan, with the holidays coming up and scheduling, and then every time that you have a load that may deliver over the holiday, now you have to start backing that up. You have to start talking to your customers. You have to start pushing things forward a little bit, so that way you can release those products so it hits their shelves at a specific time. So, it's definitely the peak season is the time to prepare yourself for anything, because anything could happen at any given time. When you've gone through 34 years of this kind of stuff on the logistics side, right? The logistics manager are pressured. We got to get this stuff out. We have to get everything into the shelves. And then you start making these phone calls, and the carriers, aren't readily available because they have a preferred shipper, and they're going and taking their loads first before they're going to go take care of yours, But I know that definitely happens, but when you're working for Ford Motor Company and Panasonic, you are a preferred shipper because you're big, you're monstrous, and everybody wants a piece of the pie. So I didn't have that kind of problems, but the little guys out there, they do have that problem, and that's when it comes down to collaboration and talking with your shippers and your carriers and trying to build that relationship, like you would with the big corporations. You have to do that with the small ones, and you'll find out it's really beneficial, extremely beneficial.
Especially when it comes to LTL, Jeff,
Definitely.
like I did the conversations that you have with your customers is, hey, we got a hot load. It has to deliver X date after the holidays or something like that. And then be honest with your customers, say, hey, these are the options we have, right? Because so many times I feel like a lot of issues kind of happen like for holiday rushes when you go with an LTL provider that, hey, they were really cheap, but like their service, or like you pull up their tracking number on their website and you've seen that it even hasn't been picked up yet, even though you've confirmed it was picked up like 2 days ago, right? And it's just that updates, right? And it's that transparency with your customer. I think for me, Jeff, when it comes to holiday season, I have those conversations with the customer like, hey, if I'm expected 3-4 loads a week from one customer, okay, well, what are we going to do? Like how important is the product to get there? What's the kind of urgency level from there? Because you kind of the worst thing, and it kind of maybe goes into like maybe trade shows as well, is that the urgency of time. Like, you have to get things there, or hey, it's a complete loss sometimes, right? So like you're saying with like the holiday, getting the product, if it's a retail, getting into store, like look how important something is like gift wrapping paper. Let's say you're doing that and it doesn't get there in time before Christmas, and then Christmas comes and it's like, well, maybe next year we'll use this. So what are kind of the conversations you're having with your customers in terms of like, hey, Thanksgiving is coming up for you guys soon. Christmas can be coming up for you guys as well. What kind of conversations?
To get back to your point, mentioned about LTL, it's really funny that the regular shipments all of a sudden over this period of time all become JIT, all of them, every single one out there. It just switches. Everybody wants to be first. Nobody wants to be last. The way that they expect, transit times, it's like you try to tell them that, hey, this is what we can do for you, but they expect always even better, and sometimes it's the shipper's fault because they have a tremendous amount of loads that have to go out. They're picking orders, and then they get backed up, so they can't pick the orders as fast as they did. Now they say it's your problem, not theirs, even though that they couldn't pick the order on time. Those are the kind of conversations that you have to have with them. What days are you closed? Are you going to open up your doors a little later for pickups due to the holiday? If you're not working a 9 to 5, you're going to be working for a 9 to 7 to take some of the slack off of you. Like, let's say Thanksgiving, Thursday and Friday in America, right? Some shippers I know, will bump up time on Mondays and Tuesdays. Some even shut down a little earlier on a Wednesday, knowing that Thanksgiving's coming up on a Thursday, and everybody is trying to get to the airports, and they try to help them out. Those are nice companies, but then again, it puts a lot of pressure on you as a logistics manager, service provider, that needs to get in there and coordinate with your carriers, because it's not the norm. Even though you're on dedicated, let's say dedicated, where you're sending in a carrier every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of every given week. Now that changes. Now you're doubling up on days, because those Thursdays and Fridays may be leaving on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, but you have the Tuesday and Wednesday load. So instead of having one load, you may have 2 or 3 on each one of those days. So it's those conversations that you have to have with those customers to find out, how their load release is going to change around the holidays. It's pertinent, not just for them, but for you as a service provider, and getting in on good terms with them.
And I think too, like a lot of, I don't know if there's numbers to kind of show this, but adding a new customer, going from prospect to customer, usually happens for me in like Q3, Q4. So they might be a brand new customer, and it's your first season with them, right? So
Yep.
I know you've always kind of mentioned like your SOP when you get a customer onboarded. For me personally, when we're kind of going into these rush seasons, I like to kind of review that with them. Just based on, hey, anything new has kind of happened, like because we're gonna see that lull in like January, February, depending on the industry, right? But for the most part, we're going to see that rush, but definitely review that SOP with your customers and be like, okay, is all the information accurate? And kind of switching there. How often do you review your SOP with like your team? I know with your internal team, and then with your customer as well, Jeff.
Well, what we have is like when I used to create the work instructions and SOPs, I would put a revised date, or a date that needs to be revisited. First of all, when you make work instructions, sometimes they don't work, but you put the processes in place to see whether or not they're going to bring you in the right direction. But you don't want to wait a month or two. You want to go back to it, look at it within 2 weeks to see what you implemented is actually giving you positive results. And if not, don't erase what you created. Put an addendum to the original document, which shows process improvements over time, which you can share with your customers. So you're writing something out, you're agreeing with it with your customer, and then all of a sudden things aren't working out the way that you thought they were going to be. So now you're putting an addendum. So you might have 1-A, and then you might have 1-A-B with an amended date on it, what the change was. So over time, when you have your quarter business reviews and you're looking at those work instructions, process improvement plans, you can show where you've adjusted, made those improvements. So it's all about value add. And that's why, some people, it's unfortunate, but they always wait until the QBR to start discussing. You shouldn't do that. If that's what you're doing, hopefully you're not. But I would strongly advise that as you're following this new procedure, that you're looking at it and monitoring it every day, every week, to see if indeed what you suggested and implemented is working. And if something is not working, don't wait to that QBR. Get in contact with that customer, start discussing it. And it's okay to agree to disagree. I mean, that's what a really good business working relationship is all built on. Those pertinent discussions that discuss those things that are going to happen, especially this time of year. And the other thing too, you're talking about prospects, right? That are now customers, and they come on this time, right? The most important thing for you as a service provider is to get data. Purge data from the customer. Make sure that you have data on the off season as well as the peak season, and especially coming into the first quarter. Because like you said, Ryan, things are going to change. They're going to change rapidly, where the pressure is on to get everything in the stores over this quarter, right before Christmas and Thanksgiving, all the holidays. And then all of a sudden you get into return season, which is going to start through January through February. So you want to see that volume, those lanes that are going to be pressed. Because the thing is that in most cases, the same places those shippers are getting their product from over the last year, but you're new over the years, the same shipper, the same consignee, Now you need to know them. Now you need to know, the weights and the frequency in which these shipments move, and then start talking about that, because that's all part of it, on the negotiation and keeping your customer and your carriers happy.
No, that's what we want, right? We want that the customer to be happy so that hey, they can, like you always kind of say, who pays your check, right? The customer pays your check. And I
Right.
think is it's times like this where we can show ourselves to be like a true partner to our customer by having that open, honest communication with them. Because like kind of getting back to it, like I know in holiday shipments, like don't always be a yes man. Customers are not looking for yes man or yes woman. So hey, customer calls you, hey, I got this hot load, that you possibly can't get it covered. You'll have to go to market with it because certain situations you either got to go to a load board, DAT, or ITS, or different things like that. But you've got to kind of trust in your own kind of network, knowing that hey, I can be that. I know a lot of us, we kind of get down like, hey, if I say no to the customer, I'm letting the customer down. But like John Brewer said, like just because you don't run to Texas, maybe you'll run to Ohio. So it's truly about working your own strengths and finding that. Jeff, when like you're looking at your holiday season, you're having this conversation with the customers, your load planners, your carriers, your incumbents, everybody. When something does go wrong, what is your course of action? Let's say it's November 24th, you're having turkey dinner with all your family. Something happens. What is kind of like your response?
You have to take care of it no matter which way you look at it, especially if it's a good customer or even a brand new customer. We're in the logistics and supply chain business. Many times over the years, I have been called at certain times where you're like, what a god awful time to get called, but you have to respond. I mean, it's your job being in this business. As much as you don't want to, sometimes you have to say, I'm sorry, I've got to go. This is very, very important, and take care of the customers, because that's your bread and butter. I mean, like
Yeah.
I said, they sign your paychecks, and then you got to start drilling into it. You've got to do a deep dive. Why did this happen? How did this happen? Where did it happen? And then make these adjustments. I'll use one, for instance, that happened around the holidays, where a train was coming through Montana, and it was extremely cold out there, and the couplers on the intermodal train locked, and they couldn't move it. But the freight had to get to its final destination. So it's like, well, what do you do? It's in the middle of the night. You get this call. The trainmen as well, they're on HOS too. They have time restrictions in which they have to work. So, when you're sitting on the tracks, you're not moving. They're still on the clock. And the thing is that what do you do? So, make a long story short, I got the train to a side rail that had a crane that could take off the container, put it on an over-the-road chassis, and get it moved as fast as possible to, its end user, which was going to be a line down issue, but it had to be done. So those are the type of things that you have to react, and you have to have that network. So my advice is, always look at the what ifs and start building your connections and creating that. So if those one-offs or those what ifs come up, you have the go-to. It's very, very important to start building. That's what LinkedIn is all about. You have millions and millions of people that are on it. You're talking to each other every single day. Ask those questions, find out what their niche is, find out what they're really, really good at. So if this type of problem ever came up and raised its ugly head, you would have a few people to go out to and say, hey, can you help me? Can you help me do this? We're all in it together, right? I mean, that's why we do the things we do. So
Yeah, and I
yeah,
like what you said that about like connecting with people on LinkedIn and having those conversations because one thing I've learned in my career is that hey, I might not be the best baker, but I can find you the best baker in Toronto. I might not know how to like do fencing or something like that, but I'll find the best fencer. So being that resource, and Scott brings up a great thing here, great point here. We're saying is like it goes back to communication. The likelihood of anything getting fixed is low, but as long as the communication is there with the solution and the timetable, most customers will just appreciate that. And it's about
absolutely.
being proactive, right? And I know some of
Very
us,
proactive.
I know some of us like, hey, like something happens, let's during the holiday or anything like that, and we're like, okay, shoot, can this wait overnight before letting my customer know because they're probably enjoying their time. But I think that's why we are in the your customers already signed up for this industry, so they know this. This is not the first time this has happened to them. And if it is, then better strap in. It's going to be a long ride.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. It's the trickle down effect. Because when an issue happens, it will go to either a VP, down to the logistics manager, down to you. So you want to make your logistics manager that you're doing business with look like a hero, an absolute hero, and fulfill his needs immediately when you get that call, no matter what you're doing. That's your job. And when you do that, all you're doing is putting another feather in that logistics manager's hat, and you will continually be that go-to person. It's results. The whole thing is results. And you've probably heard this term, and everybody that's watching has heard this term. You're only as good as the last shipment you handle. No matter if you handle 1 billion shipments, what's the one shipment they're going to remember? That one that went astray. So always handle your customers like they're new customers, and knock it out of the park every time you get a shipment, from day one to 10 years from now. If you still have that customer, always attack it like day one, and they will be in your corral for a very, very long time.
You know what, Jeff? I love that you said that. And the reason why I say that is that because like there's been times where let's say you do 100 loads for a customer and like that, and one goes weary, and then they're really chewing into you for that. And then you're in the back of your mind, your kind of pride or ego or whatever it is, you kind of be like, well, what happened to the other 100 that I did amazing for you? But it's once you kind of get out of that mindset and you think like, hey, I'm taking it one day at a time. A weight loss. If you enter a weight loss journey, you're not going to lose the weight overnight. It's literally one day at a time, one workout at a time. And I like what you said that, because since you said that, I've personally put that into my kind of repertoire personally, because I'm learning from you as well. Like as we're kind of going on the show and helping others kind of go through their journeys, but as long as you kind of keep that focus that, hey, every shipment I got to be amazing on. It's like when we're in elementary school, like we want to do our tests, you're only as good as your last test. If you flunk the tests, okay, well, study up and get ready for the next one. But you're not looking at the whole year overall. Jeff, in terms of, like you said, you're working on your holidays, you're having your customers, you're having things wouldn't go wrongs. What's your communication looking like when things go right? Everything is gone amazing. There's no issues at all. How is that day after that Tuesday conversation with your customer and your incumbents looking like?
Well, here's the one thing, what I've learned, and I've actually learned it from one of my old bosses many, many years ago. When you have these relationships with your customers, it's not just about freight. It's about their family, their likes, their dislikes, their hobbies. Once you start finding out about the people that, he's a Denver Broncos fan, he loves going to steakhouses. His wife's birthday is October 25th. His kids are Kyle and Jane. This is all important stuff. And does it take long to write a personal note and send happy birthday or something to him? No. When you talk about business relationships, you're talking about relationships, plural. It's not just about what you do as a service provider, but you want to become friends. And I have been lucky enough to have ex-bosses who are friends, even when I'm gone, that have opened up doors for me. Don't burn a bridge. Learn about their family, what happens, have empathy. Mm-hmm. Seriously, empathy in this business is one of the most important things. And know when to say no. You talk about ego. It's not about ego or, oh shit, if I don't get this shipment, I'm going to lose $200. Who cares, dudes? Yeah. I'm telling you, who cares? It's about servicing the customer and being able to say, listen, John, man, I know you're in a bind right now, but man, this is something that I can't do right now. I won't be able to move this, but listen, this is what I'm going to do for you. All right. I got several contacts who, this is their niche, and I'm going to reach out for them, not promising anything. I'm not going to overpromise and underdeliver, but I'll make a few phone calls. And if I land somebody that I feel good, I'll just give them your name and number. Do you mind? And then I'll have them reach out to you. But if they don't blame me. I'm just telling you up front, because I don't know how bad, I don't know if they're in a bind or how much work they have, but I can make that phone call for you. How long does that take? That's just being honest and having that honest, conversation with them. That's the way I work, just be real, don't try to play a customer. Know when to say no, understand their likes and dislikes, learn their background, their family, hobbies, where they like to go on vacations, all of that. It's so important.
Yep.
Don't always think about business,
Yeah.
paycheck. If you do all these things and you do it right, all that stuff's going to come, and it's going to come tenfold. I promise you, but don't be focused in on that cash.
Yeah, don't
Don't.
follow the money, don't follow that money. And it's so true, you do those little things and it becomes it like well, I'm not a quote person, but I remember reading one was saying like you'll get exactly what you want by helping people get exactly what they want, and one thing when you were kind of talking about like customers are finding out it doesn't take much, like like even like like I like to do handwritten cards, like not a lot of people like to do snail mail, but I like to kind of do that, like just say, hey, happy birthday. I know as you guys, I probably drill it to everybody. I'm probably annoying about it, but I'm a big dog guy. So if I find out a customer has dogs, send them some dog treats, send them some things and hey, this is what I'm using and things like that. And just have that conversation there. But connecting with people.
Remember, very, very important. Okay. A lot of companies out there. Now, in my time when I was working for these companies, we used to get gifts. We used to get, whiskey and all different kinds of stuff that always used to be sent to my office. I get a plethora of stuff all the time. Well, times have changed because they think that that a lot of the companies out there think that you're trying to buy your way in as a service provider and kind of tilt the torch a little bit, the pendulum towards your way because you gave them $300 worth of gifts. Oh, I got to do business with Jeff. So that's all gone. I mean, a lot of companies out there don't take anything over $25 right now.
And that's what the conversation we have, right?
I mean, do you really have to do that? That's the question. Even kindness and stuff. I mean, if you want to stop by and bring in some Joe or some donuts and stuff like that, hey, that's great. But don't try to overboard it, man.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And it comes with like relationship. Like for me, like I don't do if I don't have like their personal cell phone and we don't text back and forth, like just shooting the shit or anything like that, then I wouldn't go ahead and do something like that because you've got to ask. And maybe one day we'll talk about the dark side of the reason why those things are not allowed. And that's I feel like no, I haven't seen anybody kind of talk about that in our industry, but I think they kind of stay away from that. But with that being said, just understand the relationship, like not everybody's gonna be your friend, but at the end of the day, like this is a business relationship. This industry is so big. Work with the people that are fits for you, right? And kind of go from there. So yeah, you're right. Like even for me, like I know we had like Christmas, we'll have like a limit, like that we can. But at the end of the day, those won't get into that too much because those are company policies, right? They're not policies for everybody, right? So it's different and kind of go from there.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that would be a good topic one time because it could definitely work against you because you put your logistics manager in a spot and then his manager, hey, where'd you get that from? Oh, well, we can't do that. I mean, it just, so the best thing is don't put your logistics manager, supply chain manager in that spot, without, because you'd like to say, you know what, I'm not going to tell them I'm going to send this, but I'm going to send this anyway, kind of deal.
No,
right?
I think
that's part of the discussions, right? That you're having when you're building that. Hey, you know what? I have a lot of customers, and what I like to do is I send them swag, at the end around Christmas and anything. What's your company policy? Are you allowed to get stuff? Because I definitely don't want to put you in a position that's going to be questioned. So that's why I asked this stupid question. Just be frank with it. I mean,
and you know what? It doesn't cost anything. You know, it takes,
Doesn't
and
cost
at the end of the day,
how long did that take? 15 seconds, 10
yeah, and
seconds?
then it's either yes or no, and then boom, you know, you kind of
That's
go from there. So, but just coming back to the holiday, I think we're coming up here. Jeff, what do you got? What do you got planned for the day? I know, are you going to be working
I'm
all day
I'm
in the
I'm
cave?
working.
Or
I'm in the States, so I got a lot of work to do. I got a new client launching some lanes this week, so I have to put everything in gear, and looking forward to always having new customers on board. I think everybody likes that too, you know.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So, yeah, I got a full blown out week, and I love it. You know, I was talking to Boris on email earlier, you know, and it's like, who doesn't say I love Mondays? And you know what? I start talking about Mondays on Thursdays and Fridays, man, because I just love what I do. It's like, it's not a job, man. It's an adventure. It's like going on safari, and I'm a good hunter. That's the way I put it. So, I mean, it's awesome, man. I always look forward to my weeks, no matter if it's going to be good or bad. You know, you just, I don't know. It's just the way that I work. You know, I always look forward, and if something happens, you know, I'm prepared to take care of whatever it is. Because when you have bad things happen to you in the past, you learn so much from them. You know, that when it's like, can this ever happen again? But if it does, you know how to resolve it and implement certain things. So, you know, I look forward to it. A
That's
good
gonna
week.
be
It's
cool.
gonna be a good one. How
Yeah,
about
it's
you,
gonna be
man?
awesome. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna get a little bit of work done here, and then take some time to celebrate the holiday. You know, and go out with family and things like that, and figure out that stuff because I think it's really important. You know, like even for today for us, like it's only stuff that I can plan for myself, and the week and kind of go from there. Like there's nothing like even like call space paid. No loads are moving today. You know,
Right.
nothing from so just take the time to enjoy with your family, and I think everybody else maybe catch this replay. You know, and there's a little plug
Yeah,
here
yeah, yeah.
at
Well,
12
hey,
and 3 o'clock.
thanks for taking the time out of your holiday to do
No,
this
no, no.
podcast this morning. And just do me a favor, promise me. You see this thing here? Just put it down, man, for the whole day. Don't even
Oh yeah,
answer it.
it's yeah, it's gone, man.
Don't even
I'll
answer
leave it. Yeah, just kind of from there. So, want to thank everybody for coming out this morning, paying attention, just dropping your comments, and all your feedback they're kind of giving to us. We're gonna be hitting the replay again at 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We do go live every day at 9 a.m. Eastern, usually 9 to 9:30, and then sometimes on Wednesday we'll go till 10 o'clock with Dean. So tomorrow, I'm not sure what we got planned, but we're gonna have something pretty cool for you guys. I'll figure all that out for everybody. So everybody have an amazing Thanksgiving.
Have a
An
great
amazing holiday
holiday,
weekend.
Ryan. Have a great day, guys. See you
Take
tomorrow.
care.
Centurion Trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at American Logistics